Okay, so Brad, I had a question for you that you unfortunately answered yesterday. You told us basically how a new token project should go about building its proposition for the world, right? And I'll quickly summarize some of the things I heard you say. You said, get the right advisors on board, right? Build the right kind of token economic logic. List with the right kind of exchange. Get your white paper out and do the right kind of PR. Invest wisely in that effort. Don't try to, be stingy about it because then you'll fail. So, I've summarized already the great advice that you already gave future token projects here in India. Question I'd like to ask you is, give me some examples of ideas that shouldn't try to tokenize. Right? Often it becomes hard for us to distinguish what is a potentially good token project if we can't conceptualize a bad token project. So answer that negative question for us.
Ice cream trucks.
Keep going.
I've heard some really interesting, we look at 100 white papers or pitch decks a month, so I've seen some pretty interesting projects. I think the litmus test for me is, does blockchain play an integral role in what you're doing? If you can do it without it, then are you 10x differentiator by adding blockchain?
So let me drill down here. When you answer that question, do certain patterns emerge? You say, is blockchain salient to what you're trying to do? What happens when you ask that question? How does the cookie crumble into yes, no?
Well, it's simple. There are technology projects that don't benefit from this integration. And if that's not a benefit, then it's not time to tokenize something or do an ICO. It's time to maybe still, while the traditional VCs still exist, because I don't think anyone is going to raise another traditional VC after this one is done.
Alrighty.
But while they're still around, go to them and get the traditional financing, because that may be the best opportunity. And on the flip side, if you conceive something that needs to be decentralized, and if you see efficiencies and opportunities by taking something that is not, but putting it on the blockchain and making it 10 times better, then by all means go for it.
Okay, so I don't mean to put it on the spot or anything, but considering your impending retirement, I was wondering if you could help me out with a kind of mental conundrum that I have. I'd like you to consider the idea, it's an idea that's abroad, that's out there. Think about something like Sun Token. Okay, think of let's say there's a new token project that you hear about on your evenings and weekends. It's like Sun Token project. And they say, you know what, there's an emerging sort of solar stack. There's a bunch of guys that have to fit the solar panels. There's guys that are involved in pre-sales, conversion. There are guys that have to do maintenance and repair. There's a monitoring aspect, there's a billing aspect. There's basically a stack. And so what I have in mind is that I'm going to tie up with a whole bunch of providers up and down the stack, and I'll convince them to start using Sun Token. This is my Sun Token project, all right? So you find this tolerably interesting? We can keep talking about it?
Keep going.
All right. So Sun Token project basically gets, let's say, support from our Ethereum accelerator or something. And then it goes in ICOs. And then, in effect, it becomes a liquidity mechanism for everybody up and down the solar stack. How do you distinguish between Sun Token and a sector-specific VC? Is there any difference anymore?
A sector-specific VC would be investing in that particular sector, whereas Sun Token, it's a very different concept. I think we're mixing apples and oranges.
Okay, they're not oranges.
I'm sorry?
So my understanding is that basically Sun Token would be a liquidity mechanism for all of the participants in its ecosystem.
While that's true, look at the challenges that come with it, right? If you're an early stage startup and you have the pressure of the entire public investors fluctuating your market cap on a day-to-day basis, the number one advice that we give our entrepreneurs is to put your heads down, focus on what you're building, and just do nothing else but that. But for an early stage ICO who's already got liquidity in the market, they have to be concerned about how is the market going to treat our market cap, what kind of PR we're supposed to do, what kind of marketing we're supposed to do, things that, like an Apple or Microsoft would have to be bothered about, now an early stage 3% startup has to be concerned about. That deviates them from actually building their real product. So that Sun token would be meaningless token in a while because of all that pressure.
Don't say that, man. It's one of my favorite ideas.
Sorry.
So just to add to that, right? If enough people believe in it, it's a religion, right? I mean, what is Bitcoin right now? I mean, first it probably was like 10 people, now 100 people, like 100,000 people. You just need enough people like praying to that Bitcoin god, and it's again a religion. So the same might happen for Sun token, right? If the ecosystem of that solar stack becomes that big sort of ecosystem, that's what everyone's betting on, right? That the token value rises because there are more and more participants, right? So, I mean, yeah, there might be a time when USD is linked to Bitcoin and not the other way around, right? So, I mean, world might change, right? We're in that shifting of dynamics, and VC will be needed because you need players in that solar system, right? The solar stack. How do you build sort of, I mean, somebody needs sort of R&D or technology to build that solar panels and stuff. So that's where the VCs will come and invest, build that this thing. But it can be a good liquidity mechanism for the players involved in that.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit of confusion because you said you're going to do an ICO and introduce Sun token, and then it's going to give liquidity to the players.
And
well, the Sun token issuer, whatever entity that is, would have to buy out all the participants in the stack. Otherwise, it wouldn't provide any liquidity for those people because their assets are not tied to the token. So the token would work because it would become a currency and it could increase or decrease in value, but the people using it wouldn't become liquid because they still have...
I mean, I assume they would need to be brought into the ecosystem in some way for the ecosystem.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No equity is attached to Bitcoin and we still use it. So it's just a pure transactional token. Again, I just thought the example was interesting because you said that would provide liquidity. That would insinuate that you actually sold some of the equity that was in the ecosystem for the token.
Yeah, I assume you would have allocated tokens to each of the participants, otherwise you would never get going.
But still, you're not tying it to their equity.
To their equity.
Okay. So they'd still have to sell their businesses in a traditional way. Now you would provide more business activity within the ecosystem.
So let's drill down into this, since you brought it up. We heard from Kush earlier in the morning, right, that there's an interesting kind of dichotomy that you're sexy and hot. People write about you all the time because you've got a token strategy, but you actually have some challenges attracting late stage VC because your model is in a way potentially too radical. Have you been seeing that a lot? Is that a challenge? Do you have views on this?
The biggest challenge VCs have with any tokenized offer is most VCs are structured to exchange money for equity. It's not because it's radical. Every LP I talk to, me being one of them, I mean, everyone likes liquidity. I never heard anyone investing in any business saying, I don't like liquidity. Please lock my funds for 10 years or more and return less than what I originally gave you. That's not the point. The point is the structure of most VCs are designed to, again, exchange money, take out the equity. It falls outside of the mandate of most VCs, and they can't do that because they have to go back to their LPs and reauthorize.
So what's the guidance to a young token project that's just taking shape in somebody's mind right now? As far as ensuring that you have something like a traditional equity architecture while also tokenizing parts of your, is that the way to go? To bridge this hybrid world that we still live in?
Yeah, I mean, to ICOs, of course, you have the seed stage of an ICO where you need to raise money